Good evening, everyone. This is the report of Group 4, the perfect competition.
So, what is perfect competition? Perfect competition occurs when all companies sell identical products. Market share does not influence price. Companies are able to enter or exit without barrier. Buyers have perfect or full information, and companies cannot determine prices. So, nangyayari ang perfectong competition kapag ang lahat ng mga kumpanya ay nagbebenta ng magkatulad ng mga produkto. Ang pagbabahagi ng merkado ay hindi nakaka-impluwensya sa presyo. Ang mga kumpanya ay maaari pumasok o lumabas na walang hatlang at ang mga mamimili ay may perpekto o buong impormasyon at hindi matukoy ng mga kumpanya ang mga presyo. So, introduction to perfect competition. Market structure describes the important features of a market, such as the number of supplier o bilang ng tagapagtustos, the product degree of uniformity, ang antas ng pagkakapareho ng produkto, the ease of entry into the market, ang kadali ng pagpasok sa merkado, and the forms of competition among firms o ang mga paraan ng competition sa mga kumpanya. The various features will become clearer as we examine each market structure in the next few chapters. A firm's decision about how much to produce or what to charge depends on the structure of the market. So, ang decision ng isang kumpanya tungkol sa kung magkano ang gagawin o kung anong presyo ang susungilin depende sa struktura ng merkado. So, perfectly competitive market structure. We begin with perfect competition in some ways, the most basic of market structures. So, a perfectly competitive market is characterized by, number 1, many buyers and sellers, so many that each buys or sells only a tiny fraction of the total amount exchanged in the market. So, maraming mamimili at nagbebenta o napakarami na ang bawat bibili o nagbebenta lamang ng isang maliit na bahagi ng kabuuang halaga na pinagpalit sa merkado. Number 2, firm sells a commodity which is a standardized product such as a bushel of wheat or an ounce of gold. Such a product does not differ across producers. So, ang mga kumpanya ay nagbebenta ng isang kalakal na kung saan ay isang pamantayan sa produkto tulad ng isang basyo ng trigo o isang unsa ng ginto. Ang nasabing produkto ay hindi naiiba sa producer. Number 3, buyers and sellers that are fully informed about the price and availability of all resources and products. So, ang mga kumpanya at mapagkukunan ng malayang mobile ang ang mga mamimili po ay may ganap na kaalaman tungkol sa presyo at pagkakaroon lahat ng mga mapagkukunan at produkto. So, number 4, firms and resources that are freely mobile. That is, over time they can easily enter or leave the industry without facing obstacles like patents, licenses, high capital costs, or ignorance about available technology. Mga kumpanya at mapagkukunan ng malayang mobile ay iyon ang mga oras na madali nila mapasok o maiwan ang industriya na hindi naharap sa mga hatlang tulad ng mga patents, lisensya, mataas na gasto sa kapital o kamangmangan tungkol sa magagamit na technology. So, demand under perfect competition. Demand under perfect competition. So, the demand curve for a firm in a perfectly competitive market varies significantly from that of the entire market. So, the market demand curve slopes downward, while the perfectly competitive firm demand curve is a horizontal line equal to the equilibrium price of the entire market. So, the market equilibrium. So, ang demand curve niya po is slope downward. Tapos, dito naman sa firm demand, dito natin makikita yung horizontal line o as in perfectly competitive demand curve. So, short-term profit maximization. So, a firm maximize its profit by choosing to supply the level of output where its marginal revenue equals its marginal cost. Pinapalaki ng isang firm ang mga kita nito sa pamamagitan ng pagpili ng ibigay ang antas ng output kung saan ang marginal na kita ay katumbas ng marginal na gastos. So, when marginal revenue exceeds marginal cost, the firm can earn greater profits by increasing its output. So, kapag ang marginal na kita ay lumampas sa marginal na gastos, ang firm ay maaaring kumita ng mas malaking kita sa pamamagitan ng pagtaas ng output nito. When marginal revenue is below marginal cost, the firm is losing money. Consequently, it must reduce its output. Kapag ang marginal na kita ay mas mababa sa marginal na gastos, nawawala ang pera ng kumpanya. At dahil dito, dapat itong bawasan ang output nito. Profits are therefore maximized when the firm chooses the level of output where its marginal revenue equals its marginal cost. Sa makatuwid, ang kita ay nagpapalaki kapag ang firm ay pipiliin ang antas ng output kung saan ang marginal na kita ay katumbas ng marginal na gastos. So, total revenue minus total cost. Total revenue is the full amount of total sales of goods and services. Ang total revenue ay isang kabuuang kita o buong halaga ng kabuuang benta ng mga kalakal at serbisyo. It is calculated by multiplying the total amount of goods and services sold by their prices. Kinakalkula ito sa pamamagitan ng pagmultiply ng kabuuang halaga ng mga kalakal at serbisyo na naibenta ng kanilang mga presyo. So, total cost, the sum of all costs incurred by a firm in producing a certain level of output. So, ang total cost is ang kabuuan ng lahat ng gastos na naipon ng isang firm sa paggawa ng isang tiyak na antas ng output. So, dito hanapin natin ang total revenue minus total cost. So, i-explain ko lang yung bawat column sa table. So, column 1 is bushels of wheat per day. So, column 2, marginal revenue or price. So, number 3, total revenue or total revenue equals quantity times price. So, column 4, total cost. Column 5, marginal cost. So, column 6 is average total cost. And sa column 7 is economic profit loss. So, paano natin makukuha yung total revenue minus total cost? So, ang gagawin natin, ipagmaminus lang natin si total revenue tapos si total cost. So, 60 minus 48. So, magiging 60 minus 48 equals 12. So, yung resulta ng total revenue minus total cost is in column 7. So, dun po natin makikita naka-emphasize na. So, nandito may graph. So, yung blue line nagre-represent as total revenue and the red curve is total cost. So, the $60 and $48 represent as a maximum economic profit So, equals $12. Tapos, dito naman sa baba, bushels of wheat per day. And sa right, ay sa kaliwa is total dollars. So, marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Marginal revenue is the additional revenue that will be generated by increasing product sales by 1 unit. By 1 unit, in a perfectly competitive market, the price of the product stays the same when another unit is produced. So, marginal cost is the change in total cost divided by the change in the output. Ito po. So, the marginal revenue represents as the blue line. Doon natin makikita na yung presyo is will remain the same. Tapos, yung orange dot, yung nakikita nating orange dot will be represent as average total cost. And yung black dot is marginal cost. Yun na po din yung profit. So, economic profit in the short run. So, ano po yun? Economic profit in the short run will attract competitive market. Competitor firms and prices will inevitably fall. Similarly, economic losses will cause firms to exit the market and prices will rise. So, ang mga kita sa ekonomiya sa panandaliang ay mag-akit ng mga kompetensyang kumpanya at ang mga presyo ay hindi maiwasang bumagsak katulad dito. Ang mga pagkalugi sa ekonomiya ay magdudulot sa mga kumpanya na lumabas sa merkado at tataas ang mga presyo. So, minimizing short-run losses. So, an individual firm in the perfect competition has no control over the market price. So, ang isang individual na firm sa perfectong competition ay walang control sa presyo ng merkado. Sometimes, that price may be so low that a firm loses money no matter how much it produces. Minsan, ang presyo ngayon ay maaaring napakababa na ang isang kumpanya ay nawawala ng pera kahit gano'n ito makagawa. Such a firm can either continue to produce at a loss or temporarily shut down. But even if the firm shut down, it cannot in the short run go out of business or produce something else. Ang nasabing firm ay maaaring magpatuloy na makabuo ng isang pagkawala o pansamantalang isara, ngunit kahit na ang firm ay shut down, hindi ito maaari sa maikling pagtakbo ay mawala ng negosyo o makagawa ng iba pa. So the short run is by definition a period too short to allow existing firm to leave the industry. So, ang maikling pagpapatakbo ay sa pamamagitan ng kahulugan ng isang panahon na masyadong maikli upang payagan ng mga umiira ng mga kumpanya na umalis sa isang industriya. In a sense, firms are stuck in their industry in the short run. Sa isang kahulugan, ang firm ay napigil sa kanilang industriya sa maikling panahon. So, dito naman tayo sa fixed cost and minimizing losses. So, fixed cost is a cost that does not change with an increase or decrease in the amount of goods or services produced or sold. So, ang isang nakapirmi ay isang gastos na hindi nagbabago ng may pagtaas o pagbawas sa halaga ng mga kalakal o serbisyong ginawa o nabili. So, may isang panuntunan na nagsasaad ng isang kumpanya ay nagbabawas ng pagkawala ng ekonomiya sa pamamagitan ng paggawa ng output sa maikling panahon ng tumutugma sa marginal na kita at marginal na gastos. Kung ang presyo ay mas mababa sa average na kabuuang gastos, ngunit mas malaki kaysa sa average ng variable na gastos. So, yun po yung a rule stating that for minimizing economic loss by producing output in the short run that it equates marginal revenue and marginal cost if price is less than average total cost but greater than average variable cost. So, minimizing short-run losses. So, let's look at the same cost data presented in Exhibit 2. So, but now, suppose the market price of wheat is 3 sa column 2, not $5 na. So, this is the new situation is presented in Exhibit 4. So, the lower price or total revenue is less than total cost at all output rates. So, each quantity thus result in a loss as indicated by column 8. Ay po sa column 8. So, if the firm produces nothing, it loses the fixed cost $15 per day. But, by producing anywhere from 6 and 12 bushels, the firm can reduce that loss. So, sa column 8, you can see that the loss as minimized at $10 per day, where 10 bushels are produced. So, yung naka-emphasize po. So, the producing that amount adds $25 to total cost, but at $30 to total revenue. So, the net gains of $5 can pay some of the firm's fixed costs. So, in panel 4 or in Exhibit 5, the panel 8 present the firm total cost and the total revenue curves for data in Exhibit 4. So, the total cost curve remains as before in Exhibit 3. So, because the price of $3, the total revenue curve now has a slope of 3. So, it's flatter than at the price of $5. So, the total revenue curve now lies below the total cost curve at all quantities. So, the vertical distance between the two curves measure the low at each quantity. So, the vertical distance between the two curves is minimized at 10 bushels, where the loss of $10 per day. So, the blue line will or letter D is marginal revenue or equals average revenue, and the orange line curve is average variable cost, and the average total cost is the red dot, and the marginal cost is in black dot. So, shutting down in the short run. So, in the short run, a firm that is operating at a loss where the revenue is less than the total cost or the price is less than the unit cost. So, sa maikling panahon, ang isang kumpanya na nagpapatakbo ng may pagkawala na kung saan ang kita ay mas mababa na ang kabuuang gastos o presyo ay mas mababa kaysa sa gastos ng unit, so, must decide to operate or temporarily shut down o ay dapat na pagpasya upang gumana o pansamantalang pag-shutdown. The shutdown rule stated in the short run, a firm should continue to operate if price exceeds average variable cost. So, ang panuntunan sa pag-shutdown ay nagsasaad na sa maikling pagpapatakbo ng isang firm ay dapat na magpatuloy na gumana kung ang presyo ng lumampas sa average variable na cost. So, the firm and industry short run supply curve. So, ano po ang the short run firm supply curve? A curve that shows the quantity quantity of firm supplies at each price in the short run in perfect competition, that portion of a firm marginal cost curve that intersects and rises above the low point on its average variable cost. So the short run industry supply curve, a curve that indicates the quantity supplied by the industry at each price in the short run in perfect competition, the horizontal sum of each firm short run supply curve. So this is the short run firm supply curve. So the P1 represents as the P1, so the point 1, so the point 1 is represent as is no. So the P1 is 0 as identified by Q1. And the price at P2, the price just equals average variable cost. So the firm will indifferent about producing Q2. So the point 2 is called the shutdown point. And the point 3, so the point 3 is the firm will produce Q3 to minimize its loss. And the point 4, the firm will produce Q4 to earn just a normal profit because price equals average total cost. So point 4 is called the break-even point. And the P5, the firm will earn short and economic profit by producing Q5. So makikita natin dito siya sa graph. So si P1 identify as 0 by Q1. And si P2 as average variable cost. And si point 3 will produce the firm will produce to minimize its loss. And si point 4, the firm produces Q4 and just breaks even, earning a normal profit. And the P5, the firm produces Q5 and earn an economic profit. So nakikita po natin. And then the short run industry supply curve. So sa firm A, firm B, firm C. So pagdating dito sa letter D, ipagsasama lang natin. So 10 plus 10 plus 10, so equals 30. So dito naman sa 20. So 20 plus 20 plus 20 magiging 60. So in this exhibit 7, it presents the example of how supply curves for three firms with identical marginal cost curve can be summed horizontally to form the short-run industry supply curve. So the short-run industry supply curve is the horizontal sum of all firms' short-run supply curve. So at a price below P, new output is supply. At price P, each of the P2 P1, each firm supplies 20 units. So the market supplies is 60 units. So siya na po yung pinagsama natin sa 20 plus 20 plus 20. total is 60. Nandito na po sa industry or market supply. Ando na po naka-formula na may iba to. Yes. So, SA plus SP plus SC. So, yun na po ang magiging supply. That's all.
Shutting down in the short run. In the short run, a firm that is operating at a loss, where the revenue is less than the total cost or the price is less than the unit cost, must decide to operate or temporarily shut down. The shutdown rules states that in the short run, a firm should continue to operate if the price exceeds average variable cost. Sa short run daw po, if yung firm or business mo is nag-operate ng loss o yung pagkalugi, kailangan mo daw po mag-decide kung itutuloy mo pa yung business mo or magsasara ka pansamantala. Kung nababayaran mo naman yung mga average variable cost mo, yung mga gastusin ng business mo, pwede ka pa rin naman mag-continue ng business mo. Pero kung hindi mo naman na kayang bayaran, pwede ka na muna mag-stop or mag-close ng business mo. Pero kailangan pa rin bayaran yung mga fixed cost ng isang company nyo or ng firm nyo. The firm and industry short-run supply curves. Short-run firm supply curve. A curve that shows the quantity of firm supplies at each price in a short run. In a perfect competition, the portion of firm's marginal cost curve that intersects and rises above the low point on its average variable cost curve. In Exhibit 6 is showing the short-run firm supply curve. At the price P1, the firm produces nothing because P1 is less than the average variable cost. Sa price 1 po, yung firm po, hindi pa po sila nagpo-produce ng product kasi nga po, yung average variable cost nila is mababa pa. At price P2, the firm is indifferent about shutting down or producing quantity to units of outputs because in their case, the firm suffer a loss equal to its fixed cost. Sa price 2 naman po, yung firm naman po is nag-iisip na sila kung mag-shutdown sila o magpuproduce pa ng mga output. Kasi nga po, yung case po nila, yung firm nila nagsasuffer na ng loss, katumbas ng fixed cost po na binabayaran nila. At price 3, it produces quantity and suffers a loss that is less than a fixed cost. At P4, the firm produces quantity and just break even and earning a normal profit because P4 equals average total cost. The price 4 naman po, yung firm po nila is nagpo-produce na ng quantity or products at nag-break even na po sila or parang nakuha na po nila yung quota nila. Tas kumikita na po sila kasi po yung price 4 equals na po dun sa average total cost. Finally, at price 5, the firm produces quantity and earns an economic profit. The firm short-run supply curve at or rising above the minimum point of average variable cost. Sa P5 or price 5 po, yung firm daw po nagpo-produce na ng quantity and earns an economic profit or kumikita na po yung firm. Short-run industry supply curve. A curve that indicates the quantity supplied by the industry at each price in the short run. In perfect competition, the horizontal sum of each firm's short-run supply curve. Exhibit 7 show the short-run industry supply curve. Aggregating individual supply to form market supply. At price P1, each firm supplies 10 units of output. The market supplies 30 units. In general, the market supply curve in panel D is the horizontal sum of individual firm supply curves SA, SB, SC. Firm supply and market equilibrium. Short-term profit maximization and market equilibrium. The market supply curve S in panel B is the horizontal sum of the supply curves of all firms in the industry. The intersection of S with the market demand curve D determines the market price of $5. That price in turn determines the height of the perfectly elastic demand curve facing the individual firm in panel A. The firm produces 12 bushels per day where marginal cost equals the marginal revenue of $5 and earns economic profit in the short run of $1 per bushel or $12 in the total per day. Auction markets. An auction market is one where buyers and sellers enter competitive bids simultaneously. The price at which a stock trades represents the highest price that a buyer is willing to pay and the lowest price that a seller is willing to accept. Sa auction markets naman po, dito po magsasama-sama yung mga buyers at sellers kung saan yung mga buyers is magbibid po sila simula sa mababa hanggang sa mataas na bid. At kung sino po makakabigay ng mataas na bid, sa kanya po magpupunta yung isang product or output na tinitinda ng seller. Perfect competition in the long run. In the short run, the quantity of variable resources can change, but there are other sources, which mostly determine firm size are fixed. In the long run, however, firms have time to enter in which live and to adjust their size, that is, to adjust the scale of their operations. In the long run, there is no distinction between fixed and variable costs because all resources under the firm's control are variable. Sa long run naman ay may oras sila kung kailan nila gustong pumasok o umalis sa isang negosyo upang ayusin ang sukat ng kanilang operasyon sa pangmatagalang pagpapatakbo. Walang pagbabago sa pagitan ng fixed and variable cost dahil ang lahat ng mga mapagkukunan sa ilalim ng long run is control ng mga kumpanya ay nagbabago. Sa long run po, wala itong time limit or years kailan ka lang pwede. Unlike sa short run, pwede lang po sila sa buwan or ilang taon, hindi po sila umaabot ng decades. Pag long run naman po, pang matagal ng negosyo talaga. Kumbaga, sarili mo lang po. Wala kang babayarang fixed cost mo kasi sarili mo yung business mo. Zero economic profit in the long run. In the short run, it is possible for a firm's economic profit to be positive, negative, or zero. Economic profits will be zero in the long run. In the short run, if a firm has a negative economic profit, it should continue to operate if its price exceeds its average variable cost. Sa long run po, zero economic profit po ito kasi hindi po sila or parang wala po silang quota na kailangan bayaran. Unlike po sa short run, mayroon po silang fixed cost na kailangan bayaran kaya whether malagpasan man po nila ang average cost nila or mag-loss po sila, kailangan pa rin po nila mag-continue mag-operate ng business nila kasi may fixed cost po silang binabayaran. Halip po sa long run, wala po silang fixed cost na binabayaran.
Now, we will be discuss about the long-run adjustment to a change in demand. The long-run adjustment to a change in demand is, ito po ay ang pangmatagalang pagsasaayos sa isang pagbabago ng demand o ng isang produkto. The long run is a period of time in which all factors of production and cost are variable. Ang pangmatagalan ay isang panahon ng oras kung saan ang lahat ng mga kadahilanan ng production at gastos are variable. Kumbaga po, ito'y nagbabago o pabago-bago. Then, in the long run, firms are able to adjust all costs, whereas in the short run, firms are only able to influence price through adjustment made through production. Sa pangmatagalan daw po na firms, ang mga kumpanya ay maaaring ayusin ang lahat ng mga gastos. Samantalang sa maikling pagpapatakbo ng mga kumpanya ay naiimpluwensyahan lamang ang mga presyo sa pamamagitan ng mga pagsasaayos ginawa sa mga antas ng produksyon o yung presyo po ng produkto. This Exhibit 9 is a graph that shows the long-run equilibrium for a firm and the industry. In panel A, which is the firm, ito ay ang pangmatagalang balanse ay gumagawa ng mga Q unit ng output, which means yung Q po is a quantity per period. Then, MC is a marginal cost. Then ATC is a short run average total cost. RAC is the long run average cost. Then yung P is a price. Then D is a demand. Dito po, nagpapakita dito sa graph na ito na walang rason na magkaroon ng bagong firms sa market o umalis as long as or hanggang yung market demand and supply curve ay hindi nagbabago at patuloy ang pag-produce ng quantity or output. Dito po makikita po natin sa panel A, which is yung firm, equal sila. Then dito rin po sa panel B, which is the industry or market, yung P is price per unit, then T is quantity per period. Napakita po dito are equal, yung supply and demand. Yung color, yung S, which is for supply and the demand. Effects in an increase in demand. Ito naman po ay ang epekto ng isang taas ng demand or epekto kapag tumaas ang isang demand sa isang produkto. An increase in demand will cause an increase in the equilibrium price and quantity of a good. It causes excess demand to develop at the initial price, cause price to rise, and as price rises, producers are willing to sell more, thereby increasing output. So ito po ay pagtaas sa demand ay magdudulot ng pagtaas sa presyo ng balanse at sa dami ng isang goods. Kumbaga po, pag tumaas yung demand ng isang bagay, magtataas din po ang presyo. Example po is, ngayon po yung halimbawa po ay face shield. Pag madami po ang gustong bumili nun dahil pandemic, mas tumataas po ang dami ng goods or ng production ng face shield dahil nga po madaming nagde-demand nung isang bagay na yon. Then nagdudulot ito ng labis na pangangailangan. Causes the price to rise. So yung price po is magtataas rin. Then the price of producers, yung nagpo-produce po ng isang halimbawa po is face shield nga, magtataas din po ang price. Therefore, they are willing to sell more. And because of increase in demand po, output also increases. Effects of decrease in demand. Ito naman po ang mga epekto ng pagbawas ng demand or mga epekto kapag mababa ang demand. A decrease in demand will cause a reduction in the equilibrium price and quantity of a good. The decrease in demand causes excess supply to develop at the initial price will cause price to fail. As the price falls, producers are willing to supply less of the good, thereby decreasing output. Ito naman po is kabaligtaran naman po ng increase in demand. Pag sabi naman po decrease in demand, kapag naman po bumaba ang demand, ito naman po ay nagbabawas or bumababa yung equilibrium price and quantity of goods. Kung mga pag hindi naman po kailangan yung isang bagay or yung goods or produkto, mas bumababa po yung bilang ng goods na inilalabas. The decrease in demand cause excess supply to develop initial price. Will cause price fall. Yun po, pag halimbawang nag-decrease yung demand ng isang bagay, halimbawa is facial po. Example is halimbawa po hindi na yun pangangailangan ng tao or tapos na ang pandemya po ay magbababa ng price. Then yung producer po ay magpo-produce or magbibigay ng produkto nila ng mababa lang or kakaunti lang kasi kakaunti lang din po ang nagde-demand nun. So, output also decreases. Long-run industry supply curve. The long-run industry supply curve is an industry in which expansion does not change input prices or a constant cost industry. It is a horizontal line. So, ang long-run supply curve or it is commonly called as constant cost industry dahil po nag-expand siya pero yung prices ay hindi nagbabago or constant siya, hindi nagbabago. Or hindi nagbabago yung mga presyo ng isang output sa isang industriya. A curve that relates the price of a good or service to the quantity produced after all long-run adjustments to a price change have been completed. So, ibig sabihin po nito, yung isang kurba na nag-uugnay sa presyo ng isang goods or service sa dami ng ginawa matapos makumpleto ang lahat ng pangmatagal na pagsasaayos sa isang pagbabago ng presyo. A constant cost industry uses such a small portion of the resources available that increasing output does not bid up resource prices. Kumbaga po, yung mga maliliit lang na resources ang ginagamit para hindi po maapektuhan yung price. For example, output in the pencil industry. Pwede po siyang mag-expand or magtaas ng magtaas ng isang produkto na ilalabas pero hindi maapektuhan ang presyo nito dahil sa mga kasangkapang ginagamit sa paggawa ng pencil. Example is the wood. Because the pencil industry uses such a small share of the market supply of these resources. Kung po,
Hindi po tataas yung presyo dahil
maliit lang po yung share nito sa market supply, yung mga resources na ginamit sa paggawa ng pencil. Increasing cost industries. An increasing cost industry is an industry whose cost for production go up as more companies compete. Ang isang industriya po is nag-i-increase because of some companies competed to each other. Sinasabi po dito is, marami pong nagpapagawa ng bahay, mas tataas rin po yung cost ng mga resources na ginagamit sa paggawa ng isang bahay. Yung mga resources po is tataas ang price. At yun po ang tinatawag natin na increasing cost industries. Perfect competition and efficiency. How does perfect competition stack up as an efficient user of resources? We have two concepts of efficiency that we use to judge market performance. The first is called productive efficiency. It refers to the producing output at the least possible cost. The second, called allocative efficiency, refers to the producing the output that consumers value the most. Perfect competition guarantees both productive efficiency and allocative efficiency in the long run. That we use in judging the market performance is the productive efficiency or the making stuff right. Productive efficiency occurs when the firm produces at the minimum point on its long-run average cost curve, so the market price equals the minimum average cost. Productive efficiency, making stuff right, ito yung mahusay na produktibo o ginagawang tama ang mga bagay-bagay. Ito yung nagaganap ang kausayan sa paggawa kapag ang kumpanya ay gumagawa sa minimum point sa long run average cost, kaya ang presyo sa market ay katumbas ng minimum na average cost. Kumbaga po, dito po sa productive efficiency, making stuff right, dito po is mas inaayos po nila yung cost or price dun sa product na ilalabas nila sa isang industry. Or ito po ay, kung ito po bang isang bagay na ito is kayang bilhin or afford ng mga mamimili. Produces output, they produce output at minimum average cost in the long run. Then the last one is the allocative efficiency, making the right stuff. Refers to producing the output that consumers value the most. Dito naman po sa allocative efficiency, making the right stuff, dito naman po is mas pinopokusan naman po nila dito yung ilalabas nilang output, kung ito ba ay mas needs or mas kailangan ba ito ng consumer. Or ito po ba is most preferred or value by the consumer. Yung mga bagay po na mas kailangan or dinidemand ng mga consumer. Pag sinabi po natin productive efficiency, making a stuff right, yun naman po is nakapokus sa pagtatama or pagtutugma ng isang presyo sa mga produkto. Samantalang sa allocative efficiency naman po, allocative efficiency, making the stuff right, dito naman po nakafocus kung ano yung mga bagay or needs na ipro-provide ng mga producer. Kumbaga po dito po nila iniisip kung yung bang product na ilalabas nila is most prepared by the consumer or mas need ng mga consumer. When the marginal benefit that consumers derive from a good equals to the marginal cost of producing that goods, the market is said to be allocative efficient. So, pag isang market daw po is marginal benefit is equals to marginal cost, ito po ay masasabing allocative efficient. Because firms not only are making stuff right, they are making the right stuff. Kumbaga po, dito po sa marginal benefit equals to marginal cost, kapag ang isang consumer po is bumili ng isang bagay na nasa ayon ang price or tama lang ang price, then marginal benefit or the consumer derive from a good equal or they are satisfied for that product na binili nila, yun po yung masasabi natin na marginal benefit dahil na binigyan sila ng benepisyo or they are benefited to the product. Kung baga po ay napakinabangan nila or satisfied sila dun sa product is equals to marginal cost. Kung baga po yung binili nilang product, tas yung price na binayad nila is equal or fair. Hindi sila nalugi dun sa bagay na binili nila dahil nagamit nila yun, isang product na binili nila sa tamang presyo at nabigyan pa po sila ng magandang benefit or napakinabangan nila ng maayos yung isang bagay. Thank you for watching and listening. Again, this is Rio Mia P. Largo, the last reporter in the topic of perfect competition.